Hey guys, this is CBI Prinsu, and today we're going to be showing you how to install your brand new Prinsu Pro Rack on the 14th gen Ford F-150. Let's get to it. All right guys, before we get started, first things first, let's do a quick little double check to make sure we have all of our components and all of our hardware. We're going to have our outer side rails, you're going to have your inner side rails, you're going to have 8 mounting feet that match, you're going to have 7 crossbars that are black, you're going to have 1 that's clear, you're going to have your wind deflector, noise reducing trim, and you're going to have all of your corresponding hardware to match. So just make sure you go through, triple check, make sure you got everything before you start. And let's get to it. Let's start putting it together. Alrighty guys, so the very first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to start assembling the inner and the outer side rail to the side crossbars that go through the whole roof rack. I've got all of our hardware laid out here, so it's a little bit easier for us to kind of keep it organized. The first set of hardware you're going to need are these 1-inch long quarter 20 screws. Before we get them all assembled together, we're going to hit them with just a little bit of this Vibratite that's going to come in your packet here. So I'm going to go through real quick. You don't need a crazy amount, guys, either, just enough to make sure those threads are secure. We give you 3 whole bottles of it, but just make sure you use it sparingly, but you can use a decent amount on them to make sure. Alright guys, now that we've got a little bit of that Vibratite on all of our screws, what we're actually going to do is we're going to take our outer side rail with our inner side rail. We're going to take those 1-inch long screws and we're going to fasten them into the side of our crossbars here. So let's do that real quick. Let's show you guys. It is a little bit tricky to hold the inner side rail up, but just make sure you're holding it in the right spot. Sometimes something you can do is just thread the fastener, or at least push the fastener through the holes beforehand, and it can kind of hold it for you. If you're curious as to why there's one clear one, guys, for any of the main crossbars that are in the center of the roof rack, you're only going to use the black ones. The clear one is to go behind your wind deflector, but we will get to that spot later. Okay, now I'm going to grab my rear inner side rail, try to mate it up on the inside there. Use this middle crossbar and try to capture that all real quick. I usually just go through and kind of get them all started real quick, and then I'll come back through with my ratchet and tighten them all down. So don't worry too much about it. Getting them tight right out of the gate in case there's any adjustment you got to do. And then guys, on the rear crossbar on this one, you can mount it horizontal, but typically we mount it vertical like this with this rounder side facing inward. That way you can use these channels on the back side to mount rear lights on the back of your roof rack. So we'll do that real quick. Now guys, we're just gonna do the exact same thing for this opposite side here. We're just gonna start mounting our outer and our inner side rails just to this opposite side of the crossbars. You can start on any portion you want. I'm going to start down here at the end. Same thing again, guys. If you're having issues holding your inner and your outer side rails together, sometimes I just push the fastener through one of the holes. That way it'll kind of hold itself. That way you're not trying to fight that. Okay, alrighty guys, so for the inner side rails and the outer side rails, they're all mated up to the crossbars. We've got our fasteners started. So now we're gonna take our little ratchet here, we're gonna cinch them all the way down. Alrighty guys, so we're gonna start cinching down our crossbars here to our side rails. I've got a 5/32 Allen that corresponds here to your screws. Yeah, so let's just get to it. Start cinching them all down. Don't go too crazy with it. You don't have to really cinch it down, just enough to where it's tight. That way you don't strip out anything or anything crazy like that. Also a little tip, you're gonna wanna make sure that once you start cinching down, you're gonna wanna make sure that your inner and outer side rail, that this contour here is lining up good. So just kind of make sure once you're getting these front ones cinched down that that's looking good. And I think we are, so let's move on. Alrighty guys, so one little quick important step that we're really gonna wanna pay attention to before we assemble all of your side rails to your crossbars, we're actually gonna wanna leave a few of your crossbars out to start. That way, when we actually get the roof rack up on the vehicle, when it comes to your drilling locations, you're gonna be able to access the mounting feet a lot easier. So any one of these crossbars, this first one here, it floats right above these mounting hole ovals. any of the crossbars that float right above, and there's 4 of them you're gonna wanna pay attention to. You'll see the mounting hole ovals. Yeah, the mounting oval's pretty easy. When you're assembling your roof rack at the beginning, you're gonna wanna leave those ones out. So we're gonna pop those ones out, and then we're gonna continue on with the rest of the install. All right guys, so for the next portion of this roof rack install, we're gonna focus on the wind deflector and how we assemble that all together and how we're gonna assemble that to the rest of this roof rack. So here's all the necessary components you're gonna need. You're gonna need the wind deflector blade itself. You're gonna need your clear extrusion. You're gonna need your noise reducing trim. And in this one, you're going to have 8 1/2-inch quarter 20 screws with the corresponding washers and 8 of these sliding T-nuts that are gonna slide in these tracks of your crossbar. So typically what I like to do is I like to take your 1/2-inch screws and thread them into the T-nut on the back side. So we're gonna do that real quick, and then we're gonna slide the whole wind deflector into this extrusion real quick. So before we get started, let's make sure that we take another bottle of our Vibratite, and we're going to hit all of these screws. Make sure they're prepped. That way they're not gonna vibrate out or anything like that when you're going down the road. Alrighty guys, so now that we've got all of our screws prepped with the thread locker, we're going to take one of our screws and one of our T-nuts here. The main thing you're gonna wanna focus on with these T-nuts is that when you put these on the back side of this wind deflector, you're gonna want the raised portion of the threads upward. That way when you're sliding into your crossbar, it doesn't bind up as much, it gives you a little bit more room. So I'm gonna kind of get down here and get these all started into those T-nuts really quick. And you're not gonna wanna thread these down too far. Like I said, we still have to slide this whole wind deflector with these T-nuts into this track on the crossbar. So just get them started, don't go too crazy. So it's gonna be a little bit annoying trying to slide those in. Okay, alrighty. So now that we've got all those started, what you can do now is we can take our wind deflector. We're gonna remove our noise reducing trim for a minute. We can take our wind deflector and just flip it over like so. Obviously, to make the track work, you're gonna wanna make sure these are all sideways. Just like that. And then you're going to take your crossbar here. You're going to want to start sliding it in to that track. There I go, knocking them sideways. Here, let's get from that side. First one's always kind of a pain. Then once you get past it, then it kind of wants to guide itself the rest of the way. Okay, and then you're gonna wanna take it, flip it back over to expose your screws again. And then before you cinch it down, guys, you're really gonna wanna make sure that the side of your crossbar down here is flush with the edge of your wind deflector. That way it sits nice and flush when you mount it to the rest of the roof rack. Once again, 5 30-second Allen here. We're gonna cinch those down real quick after I stop knocking my mic out of my pants. Okay. Okay. Once again, don't go too crazy. There's no need. That way you avoid stripping any of these out. Just make sure they're nice and snug. All right, now your crossbar is officially installed to the back of your wind deflector here. The last piece you are going to need is your noise reducing trim again. So basically all you're gonna wanna do, you're gonna wanna make sure that this plastic portion, not the rubber round portion, is facing on top. Then you're gonna take your little track here that's provided with the noise reducing trim and just press it onto this leading edge here. So we're gonna do that really quick. Should go on pretty easy. You shouldn't need a crazy amount of force. If you do, you've probably got it lined up there a little bit off. So just make sure you've got it really sitting down in that track. And then just slowly go along the whole thing till it's all pressed on evenly. Okay, here's your wind deflector. Okay, alrighty guys, so now that we have the wind deflector assembly all put together, what we're gonna do is we're gonna mate it up with the rest of the roof rack now. So same thing as with all of your crossbars going down, we're gonna use those 1-inch long 1/4-20 screws. They're gonna correspond with your extrusion right there. And those are gonna mount in the middle of this slot right here. Obviously this is the light bar version. We're not gonna use that today, so we're gonna set that aside. The installation process goes the exact same for the light bar version, just so anybody knows. Okay, now we're going to take our wind deflector and we're just going to line it up. Got a good view? Okay, got them started. And then now that you've done that side, you've got those fasteners started, you're just gonna do the exact same thing here on the opposite side. Then we're gonna cinch them down. So let's do that real quick. Okay. Gonna grab our ratchet here again. Same thing, 5/32 Allen. When you're cinching these down, make sure that the main surface of your wind deflector is going to be flush with this leading edge of the side rail. So you just want to make sure of that when you're cinching it down. Okay, and then repeat with the opposite side. Okay, wind deflector is attached. Okay guys, so for the next portion of this roof rack install, what we're gonna focus on is the mounting feet. As you can tell, they have these nice little press inserted nuts here. Those are gonna correspond to the inside of the roof rack side rail here. With these oval mounting holes, like I mentioned earlier, you're gonna take the exact same 1-inch long screws you used earlier. You're gonna take those press sides and you're gonna wanna index it in that little provided area perfectly. You're gonna wanna slide it all the way up. And then we're just gonna get our screws started. Okay, same thing, 5/32 Allen. Cinch those down. Cool. And we're gonna repeat the exact same process for the rest of the 7 mounting feet that are on this roof rack. You're not gonna have to worry which mounting foot's which. They're all the exact same on this roof rack. So just kind of go crazy, throw them all on. You don't have to worry about the order or anything, okay? So just repeat the process for the last 7 feet. Same thing, we've got our location here with our mounting ovals. 1-inch screw, get them started, cinch them down. Why we like to get the mounting foot up as high as possible is that it will lower the roof rack as flush to the roof of the vehicle as possible. And if you ever want to, it does give you some adjustment. That way you can lift the mounting feet, lift the roof rack a little bit higher off of it if you need to. Alrighty guys, so now that we've kind of gotten done with assembling most of the roof rack over there, we're gonna have a quick little talk about how we're gonna actually mount the roof rack to the roof of this vehicle. This one's gonna be a little bit more special to this vehicle because you have to do quite a bit of drilling to the roof. So keep that in mind. You're gonna need quite a few tools in order to complete this, and there's quite a few necessary and super important steps involved to make sure you get this done just right. Some of the necessary tools that you're gonna need, 1, a drill. 2, we recommend that you get some sort of a ruler or some sort of a way to measure that's flexible. Yes, you can use a tape measure, but in order to get this dimension just right, that's coming up this curvature on this track, more recommended to have this. A punch, Sharpie, and a ratchet with a 7/16 socket on it. So, and one more thing, 1/2-inch wrench, hammer. So that's what you're gonna need. Let's get started. We'll show you all the necessary steps here in just a sec. Okay, alrighty guys, we're gonna give you a quick little close-up on one that we've already completed. This is a riv nut that's gonna be inserted into this rain gutter track on your vehicle. We're gonna show you some of the necessary steps on one that's already done, so it's just a little bit easier for you to see. So to start off, we're gonna need to take a measurement that begins at the start of this track that comes all the way up and curves to the center of where this riv nut's gonna need to be. And that exact measurement that we're gonna need is gonna be exactly 6.5 inches from the start of this track right here. So I take my ruler or tape or whatever you have, and as you can tell, right there in the center of that is gonna be 6.5 inches right to the start. Most of your OEM vehicles are gonna have some sort of a rubber removable track trim piece. With Ford, it's almost an adhesive foam that they glue in from the factory. So instead of just being able to pop out a rubber track piece, you're gonna have to measure it, and then you're going to take something like a flathead screwdriver and actually rip it out to expose actual metal on metal contact that riv nut's gonna need to be able to be inserted into the vehicle. So we measure 6.5 inches, and I made a mark with my Sharpie. From there, I went about 1/2 inch on both sides, took a knife, and I scored it. From there, I took a flathead screwdriver and just slowly push it out. In fact, took my flathead screwdriver and I slowly just chiseled it out. It doesn't take a lot of force, you just kind of have to push it out, make sure it's clean, and make sure you have a lot of exposed actual metal. You don't want to leave a lot of that residual foam so that you can apply this riv nut accurately. From there, so once you've got this all peeled up, you're gonna wanna probably take your ruler and make another mark right on that 6.5 inch location there. From there, I took my chisel and my hammer, and I gave it quite a few swings to give us a good starting point from where to drill. Now, keep in mind, everybody, this is aluminum. This is not gonna take a lot of strikes in order to break through the roof of this vehicle. It is imperative that you are very careful with this roof. You don't want to put a lot of force, you don't want to drill it fast, anything like that. Take your time, make sure you do this one slow. There's going to be this top layer that you're going to need to drill through, and there's going to be a layer underneath that you're also going to need to drill through as well. We recommend that you start off with your punch, and then you start off with a drill bit that mimics this size, more or less, and you step it up all the way until you hit a 3/8 drill bit. Once you hit 3/8, then your riv nut will be able to slide down there, and you'll be able to use your expansion tool to be able to open it up and secure itself in that location. So now what we're gonna do is, instead of kind of doing this step by step, we're gonna show you on the very next one real quick in person so you guys can see the whole process. Alrighty guys, so here we are on the opposite side of the vehicle. We're gonna show you the whole process on how you're going to insert and locate that very first riv nut. Why we do it on the front ones on both sides first is that you can take the roof rack after we get them installed, you can place the roof rack, and then you can mark on the roof rack all of your other locations that you're gonna need. So this is gonna be the most time-consuming part, but it's absolutely necessary you pay attention and do this right. So let's get started. We're gonna take a Sharpie, open that up, and from the beginning of that track, like I told you earlier, you're gonna wanna come up to the 6.5 inch mark. Like I said, it is very nice to have some sort of a flexible tape, just so you can follow that curve as good as possible. That's looking pretty good. Okay, so we've got our first mark with our Sharpie there. We could set that down for a sec. From here, any generic knife should work pretty good. This is not an exact science either. You don't have to measure exactly 1/2 inch out, but I will just for the sake of this video. So there we go, there's our mark, and then here I am, 1/2 inch out. I'll just mark it really quick. And then I'm actually going to take my knife, I'm going to cut down completely through this foam. It does take a decent amount of force. Don't go crazy with it though. And cut all the way through that foam. Same with this side. Cut all the way through that foam. Razor knife might work a little better, just kind of whatever knife you have. The main important part of this exact step is that when you're coming close, you don't cut this right here. This is obviously the rest of your vehicle. Okay, so now that we've got that all marked out, like I explained earlier, flathead screwdriver, something kind of scrape with a chisel, whatever you have. And you're gonna wanna take that, start in one side, and you're going to want to apply, this takes some force, you're going to want to apply a decent amount of pressure and literally peel it up. As you can see, I've got a pretty good flap going. It should follow your cut pretty well, but I'll just start again. Kind of chisel in and push, push, push. Once you get it started, it should peel pretty good on its own, but take it slow. You don't want to really scar up anything on your truck. Not that you should be too worried because you're already drilling into it, but. Okay, awesome. Okay, here's your piece right there. Obviously you're gonna have some residual adhesive and foam sitting there. So once again, take your flathead, get in there, kind of clean it out as needed. You don't have to go crazy. It doesn't have to be whistle clean or anything like that, but it is good. That way, when we apply all of the silicone that you're gonna need to seal it off, you're gonna be able to get a good seal. You're not gonna have to worry about water coming in through your headliner. For this, guys, too, we also recommend disconnecting your battery beforehand, because this drilling process, you are going through to where some of the airbag locations are close to. You shouldn't have any problems with actually hitting the airbags and having them go off, but just as an extra precaution, we did unplug the battery, so should be good to go there. Okay, now, as you can see, we've exposed our drilling location, and you're gonna have to do this for every other drilling location on this vehicle. It is 8 per side, so you're gonna have to do this quite a bit. Once again, we're going to take our ruler, because obviously our marked location is gone. We're going to remark it just so that we can hit dead center of that location. So once again, ruler's there. There's my 6.5. Right there. Okay, now here comes the fun part. Hammer, center punch. Start right in the center of that. Few solid hits. If you give it a few solid hits, it will punch through. You don't have to punch all the way through. I usually recommend that you don't. That way you don't pull all the material into a hole. Okay, so here we are, guys. I have like a 3/16 bit here. You're gonna wanna start with something pretty small to match the diameter of that hole punch. Don't start with something too big, because you don't wanna plunge at some weird angle or anything like that. Like I said, you're gonna have to drill, excuse me, through 2 different layers here. So I don't recommend punching both layers at once, because the second layer is on a little bit of a curve. You're gonna wanna punch through here, open it all the way up to a 3/8, and then center punch your second. That way you don't hit that curved second layer and go down at some weird angle. So we're gonna start here. Easy does it, nothing too crazy. And then let's start stepping it up towards that 3/8. I mean, 1/4 inch, 5/16, nothing too crazy. Hit it again. Very nice. 3/8. Okay. Alrighty, guys, there's your first hole drilled all the way out to 3/8. That is the right diameter for that riv nut to go through and expand, but like I said, we're gonna have to go through 2 layers, and that second layer is on a curve. So, once again, center punch, hammer. You're going to want to make sure you are not hitting this at that angle. You're going to want to go straight down onto that angled surface, okay? So, that's looking pretty dang good. Oop. Right there. Obviously, once again, you don't have to go all the way through, nor do I really recommend it. But make sure you give it enough of a punch so that that first small drill bit can actually sit down in that little crater that you're making so you don't slip down that surface. It's looking pretty good. One more. Awesome. Okay. Back to your small bit. Like I said, I'm pretty sure this is a little 3/16 bit, 1/4 inch bit, somewhere right in there. Keep it really small in the beginning. When you're starting out drilling this, don't full send into it. You will slip down that slippery surface again. Nice and easy. Here it is, first hole. Okay, I do recommend that you might step it up a little bit slower on this second level. That way, once again, you don't slip. Slide down that surface. Looking good. Not that the riv cert is really gonna go all the way through, but it sticks down enough to where you do have to open this up. It's not like it's gonna plant all the way through, but that is the reason why we're drilling through both of those layers. Almost there. Okay, well, I'm basically through right there. That should be all that you need. Like I said, you can go all the way through. Alrighty guys, aluminum riv nut. This is what we're gonna be sliding into that hole, and we're gonna be expanding outwards so it can grip onto your roof. Here's gonna be your little expansion kit. It's got a little bit of silicone on it from that first one we just did. We're gonna supply you plenty of washers to shim it out, but just gonna take your riv nut, like so. And it's pretty crucial, guys, that you bottom out this riv nut as hard as you can against this coupler here. That way it doesn't free spin on its own when you're compressing it, okay? So, should look something like that. The end of your thread on your screw should be pretty well flush or just barely sticking out past your riv nut right there. So you can see. We're also going to be supplying you some of this black silicone with your roof rack. So typically what I do is I'm going to apply a very generous amount of this around the rim of this riv nut here, like so. That way it seals really good. Okay. Once again, 7/16 for the top, 1/2 inch for the coupler, 7/16, 1/2 inch. Start cranking down on that riv nut. This will be quite a bit of resistance, guys, and it will not take long before it's completely expanded out and pushing out against the inside of your roof. Like I said before, take extra precaution you're not overdoing this because this is aluminum. You're not gonna wanna accidentally blow a hole through the top of your roof. You will start to feel when it's compressing, and you'll start to feel when it's really tight. About this point, when you're starting to feel it's pretty tight, is when it's gonna be compressed, okay? So from there, just loosen back up. Start threading that outwards. Okay, we do have a little bit of extra silicone there, but that's okay. It never hurts to have just a little too much, a little extra. Really seal that off in there. We can clean this up later too. But, you wanna zoom in on this mic? There you can see you've got your riv nut expanded, ready to go. And now for this next portion, what we're gonna do is we're gonna lift the roof rack onto here, and we're actually gonna cinch down the fasteners into the front feet of the roof rack, and we're gonna mark everything out using those previously installed mounting feet to use as a template for all the rest of your drilling locations for the roof rack, okay? Let's get to it. Alrighty guys, as you just saw, we had a few people help us get the roof rack up and onto the vehicle. It is recommended you do have at least a few guys, that way you don't accidentally drop the roof rack, scratch your roof or something like that. So we've got it set up here on the vehicle. We've got plenty of foam here to protect the roof. T-shirts, towels, whatever you got at home to protect the roof, you should use it. So yeah, here's what we're gonna do. The very first slot in your first mounting foot, you're gonna wanna overlay directly over that first hole we drilled with the riv nut. And then all the way back, this roof rack will serve as a template for the rest of your drilling holes, okay? So what we're gonna use to mark where we need to is we're gonna use our center punch again with the hammer, and we're just gonna go in the center of every single one of those slots in those mounting feet and just mark them all the way through, okay? So I'm gonna start here. Start there. And obviously this is just through the foam, this isn't into the metal, so we'll still have to pry the foam out. But this will give us a good starting point to go from, okay? Okay. Alrighty guys, now that we have our holes marked out using our roof rack as a template, once again, we're gonna whip out the knife. And it is actually recommended that you do take your ruler again and you mark a 1/2 inch out on both sides on the holes, and then score it just like we did before, cut it out, pry it out, begin the drilling process on all of them, okay? So, let's do it. Okay, alrighty guys, we've got all of our template holes marked out to cut out the foam. So what we're gonna do again is we're gonna go through, we're gonna take a screwdriver and peel out all that foam just like we did on these first ones. So, let's do it. Okay, alrighty guys, so now we've got all of our foam pieces cut out. Everything's ready to go, everything's all marked up. We've center punched all of them. Now we're gonna start drilling. You're not gonna need these, you can just chuck them. So yeah, let's start drilling all the mounting holes. Alrighty guys, so now that we have all of the holes are drilled and all of our rib nuts are inserted and expanded, now it's time to actually replace the roof rack back onto the roof of the vehicle. But before that, we're gonna prep it with the spacers that are provided that the mounting feet are gonna sit on. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get a little bit of silicone here that's gonna be provided in your kit. We're gonna do a nice layer on the bottom, like so. And then we're also gonna do some on the inside of the spacer itself for the fastener, so you can go down to the rib nut and seal up everything. Decent amount down inside right there. So, yep, you can be a little bit generous with it too, if you're worried about it. And then basically stick it into place right over top of that rib nut. Then we're gonna do that 17 more times. Alrighty guys, so after we get the roof rack actually set on here, you're gonna wanna make sure everything's all centered out. You're gonna wanna measure from the inside of your side rail. Usually you can use some part of your rain gutter here, but you're just gonna wanna measure it out and make sure it's all parallel, it's all even on both sides, nothing's kind of sitting at some weird angle like that. And then you're honestly just gonna run down your fasteners. These are 1 3/4 inch, quarter 20 bolts. With your fender washers here, you're gonna wanna run them down through those mounting feet, down through those spacers into those rib nuts, and you just want to cinch them down, and that's it. So. Alrighty guys, and that's it. We have the roof rack completely installed on the 14th gen Ford F-150. Guys, that's it. Pretty simple, easy. If you follow the video, you should be able to get this mounted up, no problems at all. If you have any sort of extra questions or concerns, please reach out to us in the comments below. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on the trails.